Well, we brought you the Fox News alert at the top of the hour about new warnings from JP Morgan and Citigroup about the danger of a new recession and how it is increasing, according to them. That's creating new pressure for President Obama's jobs plan. We won't know the full details until next month when he lays out the plan in September, but here is what we do know so far. The plan reportedly will extend the payroll tax cut. It will also include a mix of tax cuts and infrastructure spending on bridges and roads and so on, plus new ideas to accelerate job growth, including incentives for employers. Joining me now, Deneen Borelli, Daily Caller columnist and Fox News contributor, Alan Colmes of the Alan Colmes Show, and Elizabeth MacDonald of the Fox Business Network. All right, so Lizzie Mac, Stu Varney told us at the top of the hour, this is bad, what Citigroup and JP Morgan are saying, that they're basically reducing the growth forecasts for our country pretty drastically, and that would put us closer to another recession. Before we get to the politics of it, business-wise, do we trust these guys? Do they have a horse in the race? Is there reason to say not to believe them?
It's a good question. I think we trust these guys. And because what they're saying is essentially we had an historic crack up in the U.S. economy, and that is that we have an over-leveraged economy, and we have three bubbles bursting at the same time, Megyn. A housing, credit, and commercial real estate bubble. That's an historic, rare economic event. So ordinarily, history shows us that you would have a recession coming on balance within 3 or 4 years' time. But what they're also telling Fox Business, I talk to these guys all the time, is that government spending is not necessarily the way out of it. In other words, there's other ways to get companies to create jobs. That's the deal. In other words, if you spend, the idea being that the printing press and gunning the debt machine down in Washington, D.C., if that was the way to go, the Weimar Republic would have been rated a AAA country, right? So they're not necessarily saying that is the right way to go.
But, Alan, the president seems to think that we do need some more spending. And what strikes me about his plan, because some are saying it could be as much as $300 billion in stimulus or infrastructure spending when you add it all up together. Is he not going to displease everyone? Because some on the far left want more.
He will displease everybody.
And the right wants none.
He will displease everybody. Everybody's going to take some of the pain and suffer a little bit, because he's also talking about reforming entitlements again. That's part of his projected plan, which I think they leak out to let us get a sense of how are they going to react, and then they finally say it in September. So everybody will be upset about this. Republicans aren't going to like the tax structure changes. Liberals, progressives aren't going to like the entitlement changes, and everybody will be upset with having to tighten up a little bit.
Did he try to go the moderate way with the first stimulus plan? I mean, I know it was $800 billion, right?
I think he's been very moderate.
Even then, liberals were saying that wasn't enough and it wasn't going to do it. I mean, are some now saying, we told you so, and $300 billion is not going to do it either?
Because we should have had a bigger stimulus plan, as Paul Krugman, who I happen to agree with, said to begin with. A bigger stimulus plan, getting money into the way you grow a business is to invest money in it. You have to do that with the country as well.
The government can't create purchasing power. You have to get somehow that cash on the balance sheets into the economy. I hear Alan's very good point, but it's about incentives, how you get the companies to do that. And time and again, what Wall Street is saying, look, they're tired of hearing, that we inherited this recession. That's what the president and Charlie Rangel is saying, that we inherited
Even if it's true, people are tired of hearing.
But Megyn, but Biden, Vice President Biden, Charlie Rangel, they've been around since the Nixon administration. We got Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, Barney Frank, and Harry Reid have been around since the Reagan administration.
They're not setting economic policy.
Yeah, what they did, yes, they created a lot of economic policy out of Washington, D.C.
But let me ask you this, Deneen. How will that fly? If he wants to propose an additional $300 billion in spending, we have sort of an expected reaction from the left that it won't be enough. How's the right going to respond to that?
Yeah, well, listen, government spending is not the answer. That's Keynesian economics. It didn't work the first time. This sounds like a mini stimulus, another mini stimulus.
Didn't work either, by the way.
And what we are witnessing is serious job crisis here in our country. Thousands of people lined up in Atlanta, which we just saw on the news, people across the country. Unemployment is still through the roof. He was promising shovel-ready jobs, and that didn't happen. And so this more spending is not going to fix this.
What about that? I mean, maybe we can run that videotape if we still have it. Did you see that picture of the people trying to get into that jobs fair in Atlanta?
Yeah.
I mean,
people want to
wrapped around.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bring it home. We have jobs, we work, we earn paychecks, we're lucky. Those folks are out there and they've been unemployed for now years.
Well, among the things he's going to talk about in September, supposedly, is incentivizing companies to hire, tax breaks. But he's talking about a lot of tax breaks in this plan, too. This should make the conservatives happy.
Yeah. He is talking about that, incentivizing corporations.
And that's right. And Megyn, you make an important point about the stimulus plan, because it was essentially pretty moderate, middle of the road, because there were tax breaks in that, too. But the point being, I mean, the government doesn't create jobs. Jeff Immelt and the Jobs Council is not going to create jobs.
But they do say that government can create certainty or uncertainty, and President Obama has taken some heat for creating uncertainty. How?
That's right, because of the bear market hug he's given to businesses and, you know, the dreary defeatist rhetoric. And I think the best stimulus is to say, we love the free markets, we love the capitalist system, we want to create jobs. We are in a historic time right now in the economy. The first priority is jobs, not reforming whole sectors of the U.S. economy, which we want to do anyway.
The president's saying he's got to do a number of different things. You can't just ride on one horse. You've got to do a number of different things to make everything come together. It can't just be one thing.
Are less regulations. Is anyone paying attention to what the Environmental Protection Agency is doing? It's an onslaught of regulatory compliance that is a pressure on the fossil fuel industry. Which, by the way,
President Nixon created.
And it's going to result in more job losses. It's already happening. Utilities are coming offline.
To that point, you hear some employers complaining about the healthcare law, about Dodd-Frank, about certain things that they say, look, we're just not going to spend right now because we don't know where we're going to wind up, how much we're going to owe, how many people we can afford, and we're going to hold on to our dough right now, which leads to
spending
lines
on
like
infrastructure, helping rebuild the country, putting some of these people to work is actually going to create a tax base, and it's going to help. You've got to spend
short-term solutions.
You need to do short and long-term. You've got to do a variety of things, including short-term.
It's a lot of money to hire people. It's a big investment, and they want long-term employment, not short-term jobs.
I mean, the infrastructure bank might have been a good idea at the outset. I think it is a good idea to put people to work because their infrastructure
we spent a lot of money on infrastructure from the first stimulus.
Yeah, yes, you're right, and that's an important point. I think that, you know, basically, where do you go from here? I mean, stop with the rearview mirror thinking and the argumentative behaviors in Washington.
A lot of his critics have said, okay, they've heard what we've heard, at least so far, because we haven't heard the whole thing about the plan, and the reaction was, that's it?
That's right.
Patent reform, some more free trade,
but, you know,
a moderate stimulus for infrastructure. It doesn't seem like either side is saying, we got it.
Right. Megyn, the issue is 5,000 pages of new regulations coming out of health reform and finance reform. I'm not saying we should not have reformed Wall Street. Yes, but companies are saying, look, we feel stranded in the middle of the road. We are not going to build a factory if we don't know what our tax bill or our regulatory bill is going to be when people in Congress have not even read fully those bills.
Yeah, well, time will tell. The speech is unveiled, the major speech in September, and we'll wait for it. Panel, thank you.
Thank you.